Before the election, just about every economist in New Zealand said that the National Party's numbers just didn't add up. But Christopher Luxon and Nicola Willis went round the country telling everybody that their numbers were rock solid. Day after day, it becomes abundantly clear that the economists were right and that the National Party was willing to say whatever they needed to say.
Not a criticism of Labour, but it's fair to ask the question, why did Labour lose then?
Mm-hmm.
If we all knew, and we knew, we looked at the numbers, we told you, if we all knew, why did they lose? And I'm not saying that like, well, why'd you fucking lose? I mean, actually, what happened?
What were the reasons?
Yeah, what were the reasons that that National was able to pull the wool over so many people's eyes? Because everyone in the media, be it independent like this or Legacy, were saying these numbers aren't working. So I agree with what Chris Hipkins is saying right now, and I think it's fair. But taking a step back then, why did the left lose? If all that was known? I think that's sort of the question maybe if I was in that caucus I'd be wanting to ask. Because if what you want to do is how to not let it happen in 2.5 years from now, that's the thing.
In order to win the election, and now they cannot deliver. Let me be absolutely clear. The financial crisis that the current government claims that they inherited is one that they have created for themselves.
100%.
National told New Zealanders that their promises were affordable and that they could balance the books just by cutting back on so-called wasteful spending. Increasing the number of teachers, nurses, doctors and police that we employ and paying them better is not wasteful spending. It's certainly not wasteful spending to rebuild our schools and hospitals, our roads and our water infrastructure, and to invest in public transport. Properly supporting those with disabilities is not wasteful spending.
That's a good line. After last week, that's a real good line.
Vital preventative health care, like free prescriptions and cheaper doctors' visits, is not wasteful spending. I could go on. The list is a long one. But let me cut to the chase. National's plan to cut spending on public services that New Zealanders rely on to fund tax cuts will leave us all worse off.
All true. But
Every word of it.
all of that was true before the election as well.
Yes.
And they lost. And I think, who were we speaking to? We had a guest on. I might have even been Clinton the time he came on as a guest. And all of the things we were saying were true. And he said, yes, but we still have to realise that they still won. They still won.
Yeah.
So why, with all these truths out there, did they still win? And I'm not asking that question tonight because there may not be an answer to it, but I've got one more clip to play from there, Paul. But when we jump in now, what would you like to speak to those truths that Mr. Hipkins just laid out?
I think the important thing to look at is those were truths at the time, but it wasn't Labour that was pushing back on it as much as it was the CTU. They were the ones that were running the numbers, that were releasing things to the press saying, look, this is wrong. And then Labour was doing it, and then the press picked it up sort of a week or so later. So I think if Labour had been a little bit more onto it with pushing those numbers to begin with, it would have felt more like a battle going into the election. And that could be part of the reason for the outcome that we got.
Well, let me tell you something that's going on at the moment. What happened when Jacinda went in and Jacinda took over, there was a really slick, well-educated, I don't mean smart, but like well-educated in the world of politics, really strong backroom, the Matt McCartans and those guys who've been involved for the last 10 years. It was a really solid, strong backroom that was really onto it, right? When Hipkins took over and this election just gone, it's like there's a whole bunch of new people back there.
Yes.
It's like there are new, not the people you see, but behind the scenes there's a new team. It's all new. Now, I'm prepared to go, so last election was a bit of a learning curve for them and they'll hopefully be better next election. But one of the reasons I think that we saw what we saw, like for example, the UK Labour Party sent people across. And I was always like, why the hell did Labour wait till 4 weeks out from the election? It didn't happen that way. The UK Labour Party offered their people, because I guess the UK Labour Party could go, well, these guys are in trouble, we better send some people over. So inexperience in the back rooms, not that hard-nosed political nous and people who had fought 3 elections before, is the people that were fighting this election, and I think it showed. Inexperience showed, not from the people you see on camera, but from the people you don't see behind the scenes. I think that's probably a big part of it, Paul.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think one of the other factors that comes in there, though, is that National spent their money better in their campaign. They hired, the top online marketing agency for things like TikTok and Instagram, and that showed, that they spent the money where they needed to get those markets. And the younger team in Labour should have picked up on that and didn't.